And we're live.
All right, welcome to the last episode of this year. Tell us about yourself. I'm Dustin Garman, and over here is my co-host, of
Steven,
course.
how's it going?
Throw those chairs at him, please, on Twitch. Um, and our special guest today is none other than Anthony Gangone. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Man, much obliged. I appreciate you was willing to do this, and everybody in this community I've ever talked to, when I was getting in this community, and I've seen the rogue Anthony Gungone competitor flying around, of course, and everybody has said they've always enjoyed either seeing you in person, watching you, and getting to know you, and they always said you were really friendly. And I have yet to be able to meet you, but I have watched your videos, and it's a pleasure to have you today. Um, One thing I was kind of wanting to touch on was it seems to me, because I know when I was starting into the game, you had already had a competitor in this game, and Super Show was still kind of really fresh coming out. I believe you joined the Super Show back
Let
when
the
you were
sticks
in
rain.
House of Glory, correct?
Yeah, that's when it would be. Yes.
And what was kind of like the approach when you met Steve?
At the time, so I guess Steve came up with this card show that he actually pitched to a fairly big wrestling company, and for whatever reason, at the time they weren't interested in it. So then Steve kind of took it upon himself with his staff to create this card game in a different way that didn't have, you know, necessarily licensed, contracted wrestlers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he used where I was training at for a good long while as kind of a, I guess, maybe jumping off point through my lens. And from there, Steve, got all these wrestlers, independent wrestlers at first, and then he started getting like the AJ Styles and these other bigger wrestlers at the time to join up with the game. And now it is what it is, with so many uh, wrestlers that even contracted interested in playing the game, even if it's not necessarily. It might be like their Dungeons and Dragons character, not necessarily, but it's kind of a nice deep cut to know that this wrestler that's been around forever is using his Dungeons and Dragons character. So it's kind of funny.
Indeed, in which it's brought all kinds of big names in there, and also going back, I was studying really hard, like your backstory and stuff like that, and one of those competitors, it was saying like helped train you was Amazing Red, and he seems like he was a really cool guy. I've watched his videos and stuff like that. How did he kind of help you get into wrestling?
Well, he really just trained me as far as like what to do in the ring and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, other than that, I left that place in 2019. So, but as far as like learning the basics and all that, that's what I learned from him.
And Chibi.
So, one of the first questions I wanted to ask is one above all, the Rogue, now Dr. Sleep, all these personas that you've come up with, which one is your favorite?
Huh. I can't. It's hard to say exactly, but they're all still a part of me. You know, the rogue is still a part of me, and the one above all is still a part of me. Now I'm going by Doctor Sleep, but I mean they're all a version of me. I think each one has developed in a certain way, and Doctor Sleep is my latest form. But being kind of anti-establishment, the rogue is still in me, and being the one above all, where I think that I'm better than everyone around me, is still in me. And Doctor Sleep now is just a natural progression of taking Anthony Gangone and using various submissions and knockout strikes to put people to sleep. So it's kind of a natural progression and development of who Gangone is.
Interesting. And so, I have not gotten to see many of these events. I've tried to find some, but what have you been using as a finisher lately?
Well, I came up with this finisher that's a variation of the go to sleep, and it's basically a water slide position, and I pivot my body, and my knee connects with the person's skull. So I'm using
Oh,
yeah, and I'm using that, and I'm also using a triangle arm triangle submission, which I call sleep paralysis. And if you have ever experienced sleep paralysis, it's pretty scary
oh yeah.
because is asleep, but your brain is still awake, and there's yeah, so it's not a pleasant experience, and neither is the submission. So I thought it fit well.
Definitely sounds like an amazing finisher.
I,
I'm still just thinking about that PTS you said. I'm just like, oh,
yeah, yeah. It took years to come up with it. I bet I went many years without really having a true finisher, and then one day I tried it out at a show. The person kicked out of it, but I got a good reaction, so I thought to myself, maybe this should be it. And ever since then, there hasn't been a single person that has kicked out of the Dreams by the Waterfall, is what I call it.
oh. Actually,
Interesting.
that is one of the finishers we have for you in the game.
Absolutely.
Just that it doesn't look as amazing as it sounds when you see the still image on the card.
Yes,
But
there's not a mobile version of the card. Future, there'll be like a GIF version of it. But as of right now, you can only see the animation of the final moments of the Dreams by the Waterfall.
so let's go to a question that was asked in the audience. So the Italian Bombada asked, Gangone, have you gotten any better as a barber?
As a what?
As a barber. I have no clue
Barber.
why he's asking that question.
I think maybe he thought I was Edward Scissorhands, but I'm not. I've never cut my own hair. I haven't cut anyone else's hair. So although I would think it'd be quite dangerous, so maybe I should stay away from scissors. So I hope that helped answer your question.
Oh, apparently at one point you attacked Steve and cut his hair at a
Yeah.
at a show.
You know, it
Gotcha.
happened. That was a lifetime ago, and Steve was. The thing is that Steve was kind of looking a lot like me back then, so there could only be one version of me. So I gave him a haircut. He looked good though. So yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Another thing. So you've worked with as a large independent wrestler. You have been working with multiple companies and won different titles from all of them. I what's been your favorite one to work so
Hmm. So I would say I don't work with them anymore, but I It was Excellence, and that was in Pennsylvania, and I worked there for a good amount of time. And just because it was so much fun to go there, and it was a different version of me that other places didn't get to see. And I got to team with Mark Quinn, who's in AEW right now, and um, yeah, it was just because of the fun factor, and I really enjoyed going there and performing, and we had this natural, organic connection with the crowd there, and it was really something nice and special and intimate between us, the wrestlers, and the audience. Oh, and AEW was cool too. So
which one was
AEW Dark when I did Elevation? That was cool too.
how many matches did you do for them? You just did
one. It was about a year ago.
That was when you teamed with Mike Verna, right?
Correct. Yes.
Another one of the wrestlers that's beloved in the Super Show.
Yep.
So another question that a lot of people asked before this: would you be willing to come back and do another card for the Super Show?
Absolutely. I mean, that would be up to Steve, but from what I understand, the cards that I've had are pretty, or have been pretty popular, and I kind of also in there as the Krampus character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm one of the few that have multiple cards of different versions of myself. So that's pretty a nice thing to have as well. So absolutely, maybe there's a Dr. Sleep in there. Maybe there's another character in there somewhere. So
that would definitely be fun. We have Games Johnny asking, who was your biggest influence and who's your favorite wrestler? So I guess who was your biggest influence of becoming a wrestler?
So there's kind of like multiple parts to this.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like favorite wrestler, which also influenced me, was Jake Roberts. Yep, he was big. And then like as a teenager, watching Ring of Honor and watching like Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness and Austin Aries and all those guys at the time kind of introduced me to this like newer style of wrestling that I fell in love with, that was more realistic and more adult during the time of like mainstream wrestling was a bit more I guess we would say kid friendly. And like being an angsty teenager, you kind of wanted a little bit more, so that's where Ring of Honor kind of came in. So I would say those, Jake Roberts and like that kind of era of Ring of Honor, were my two biggest influences. And I would say, I mean, depending on the day, it might change, but I would say Jake Roberts is probably my favorite wrestler of all time.
It's a good wrestler to have as a favorite, especially with his story of how he's come back and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a long journey for him, and I'm glad to see that he's having a positive influence in wrestling and on his own life as well.
We have a question here in the Zoom. It says she can't work or she can't speak because she's at work, but she did ask in our questions, what was the funniest thing you've had to do in your wrestling career? That's asked by Nico.
The funniest thing that I had to do in my wrestling career. I don't know. I really would have to think about this one. At one point, I wrestled in a mask as like this French kind of like lover type character that had a ridiculous like sexual overtone name. So that was kind of a situation. Yeah, I mean a lot of like funny things happened when I was teaming with Quinn. Like we'd do these like interviews and promos where he would like say that it was my birthday and it wasn't my birthday, and it was just like me getting angry and people seem to enjoy that. So, yeah, I offhand, that's kind of like two things that pop up into my head as far as like ridiculous situations that were more funny. There's been ridiculous situations that were later on you laugh about, but at the time you're like, I can't believe this is my life. So, but mostly, yeah, mostly good experiences.
Nice. Now, what is one of your kind of like when you was getting into wrestling at first? What was kind of like your main goal? What was it really? Was it to like futuristic wise?
Well, I mean, I guess at the very beginning, I would say is just to have a match and just be a wrestler. But I mean, later on, it turned into trying to make it a career. And like,
Hmm.
I've done things in my wrestling career that, I'm sure the like little kid version of me would be very proud of. But there's still a lot more to do that the adult version of me wants to do. So those are kind of the goals that I have as of right now. But yeah, honestly, it was really just to wrestle at first because I just wanted to prove that I could at least go inside the ring and overcome that, you know, uh, that big obstacle. Because a lot of people never even get started on trying to pursue their dreams, and it is very difficult and doesn't mean you're going to be successful, and that
Hmm.
in my case as well. But I mean, just to go in there and do a version of your dream is pretty impressive, and I've been very lucky to be in the ring with a lot of like great talents that became world champions or were world champions are very important, and I've done things that 8-year-old me would be jumping up and down for, but there's still a lot more to do.
Oh, yeah. And I guess that's a good question to lead into next. What does the future of Gangone look
The future, it's just continuing to make the next step. There's whatever that is, and I don't want to like kind of pigeonhole myself with that, but it's just when the fans or people that are interested in my work or friends or whatever the case might be see what I will do next or whatever, that they'll know, okay, that is the next step in his career. So that's kind of where I see it, whether that's being in bigger places or contracts or more money or international or whatever the case is. The next step is my future.
I guess one last question that I have is if you could tell that 8-year-old self one thing, what would you tell him before starting wrestling?
Um, I think it would be don't lose focus on your dream. You know, there's when you pursue something, sometimes things could get your focus could be you know not fully where it should be. Distractions occur, or like just nonsense and stupidity and all that. So I would say is that always to focus and also to make sure that you remember what you started doing this for. And don't let anybody else get in your way.
Awesome sentence. All right. Well, thank you for all of your time. Uh, I leave the floor to you right now. If you have anything that you want to promote, your wrestle tees or anything like that, please.
Yeah. So I'm all over social media at Anthony Gangone on Instagram. It's at Anthony Gangone _. You can also search for me on Facebook at will be Anthony Gangone. I'm in most of the SRG Facebook groups.
Mhm.
Uh, So you can every once in a while I'll pop into that as well. And Pro Wrestling Tees / Anthony Gangone Pro. If you want to buy some of my merchandise, and I just want to say like the SRG community is something that I'm very happy to be a part of, even though I've been to various tournaments and various events, probably not as much as many people in this group, but they've always been very nice and very positive and very helpful. And I see how everyone kind of tries to help one another when it comes to the Facebook groups, and to see their promos and how much they enjoy the game, or even when someone is maybe on hard times and just needs someone to speak to, that you guys are a very strong community. And it's nice to see, kind of see the beginning of SRG where it was and now where it is now. It's very nice to see, and I'm glad that the community is the way that it is.
All right, we got 2 more questions that just came in. Dizzy Derailed asks, "What's your favorite Christmas tradition?"
Oh, it would be watching Christmas or holiday horror movies. That's probably my favorite thing to do. And um, yeah, I mean, as far as that, or just kind of just being in having the days off, and just enjoying family and friends and the cooking and just all that, the lights. It's just a very nice time for me, and it's just reminds me I was lucky enough to have a very good Christmas growing up, and it's just me kind of chasing my past Christmases and the joy of that. And I say that most of my Christmases have been very good, including this past one. So I'm very lucky to have that. But I think most, especially as an adult, is to watch all these ridiculous holiday horror movies, and see what else they come up with each and every.
We saw on your Twitter right now. You can see the Krampus videos.
Yeah.
And the last question that was asked is, "Are you busy St. Patty's Day this coming year?"
As of right now, I would have to look at my schedule, but as of right now, I don't think I am.
Okay. So maybe we might get a chance to see you at our next grand gathering. But
Yeah. You might be into it. I think me and Steve were actually talking about it a little bit about a month or two ago.
But we'll just wait to see. Thank you so much for your time. Oh, Neko, what's up? He wants to know how tall you are.
I'm 5'9", legitimate. So I won't lie to you like the rest of these wrestlers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Dustin, anything else you have to say?
I just want to say thanks to everybody that's been with us watching our episodes and everything, as this is the last episode of this year. But next year, I plan on, of course, many more. I just want to say, Anthony, it's a pleasure just having you on here. Like I said earlier, I've heard great things about you and people that's met you and watched you wrestle in person, and hopefully one of these days I can come watch you. Which I live in Kentucky, so I'm not sure if you've got any upcoming, in the southern region. But I'd love to come watch you sometime. I just, like I said, I appreciate it.
Well, I thank you for having me, and thank you for saying all that. And hopefully, I will be in your neck of the woods, and maybe you'll be at a big arena. You never know.
Touche. And
Thank.
oh, sorry, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like I said, it's a pleasure, folks, and I appreciate the support going forward.
And we will see you guys next time. Can I get a bye, man?
Y'all have a good New Year's.
Bye, man.
Bye, man.